Damn, that was a long ass movie.
We haven't even welcomed you yet to the beginning of Nose to Nose, remember? We should start it out first of all.
Let go.
Welcome to Nose. I'm Michael Kutza, the founder of the Chicago International Film Festival, and you're finally going to get to see Geno Suarez, right?
Yes, you get to see me today.
He even shaved for today, by the way. And we're gonna give our thoughts about Babylon, a film that I think we both liked, right?
I agree. I liked it.
So, what are your thoughts?
My first thought?
Yeah.
It was too damn long. It was, what,
It is-
3 hours and...
I think 3.5 hours, yes.
Yeah, it was a long 3-hour movie, but it didn't feel like 3 hours.
What?
Only point that it felt like 3 hours was towards the end when they started doing a bunch of convoluted endings.
I think it had like 4 or 5 endings, I think, actually.
Yeah, I agree.
So this guy, what is it, Damien
Chazelle.
Chazelle, he's French American. Say it in Spanish. We had him at the film festival years ago with La La Land. And La La Land, a musical, wonderful, happy experience of his love for Hollywood. So would you say this was a love for Hollywood or a hate for Hollywood? But how does it come off to you?
Interesting. I think it's a love letter to Hollywood, but it's also a realistic portrayal of what Hollywood is. I think a lot of the times the industry itself is too focused on making itself look nice through rose-tinted glasses that it's hard for them to make movies that are realistic about the beginning of Hollywood because there was a lot of egregious things that were going on at the time. And I think this film portrayed that reckless egregiousness that came with the 1920s that was right before the era of depression in the United States, but was also the huge turning point for films going forward from silence. Yeah.
To sound. It's interesting since I knew people back that made those movies, and it is quite realistic because these are kids. I don't know if it's portrayed because really the star of the film, she really would only have been about 17 or 18 years old, and all of them were just kids. And the freedom and the craziness was probably quite real. Having the film open in a shot that happens, he lifted a lot of scenes from so many films. He loves movies, clearly, the director. But the opening scene is a total ripoff of The Great Gatsby. It is almost the same living room, the same shot, the same decadence of Great Gatsby.
I could agree with that.
Yeah, and then even on the set when you're doing 5 films at one time in one set, absolutely that's how it was done. And since it was silent, you never heard of these other films being shot at the same time. And having her, I think she's sort of replica of Clara Bow, who was a flapper at the time, opposite Colleen Moore. Colleen Moore was the flapper. One was the good girl, one was the bad girl.
If you watched our last episode, you would know this, but I'm sure you didn't. The part about the film that I enjoyed the most was how they portrayed the studio system in the beginning of the audio era of movies and towards the end of the silent era, because there was a lot of things that they did, like I talked about earlier, that was lacking in standards, morally incorrect, kind of just throwing people by the wayside to get these films done. There was a lot of points in the film where you see people dying for the actual filming of the movies, which is something that they don't talk about often now because of how often safety regulations are.
I think they made it clear that they had no idea what they were doing. They had no scripts.
Oh yeah, they had no idea.
They were basically improvising, like at Second City or something. You were just improvising, and they said, do a love scene. They had to fake it. They had to do a love scene, which means they had to be relatively creative when you think about it.
Yeah, which caused a lot of people to die. But hey,
yes, people die.
The movies got made, right?
Exactly. And they're making, 4 films at the same time.
Yeah, in one desert location. If you don't, I guess we have to give the audience an understanding if they haven't seen the film. There's a scene in the film where they're shooting what it is, well, the way that it worked back in the day was you have to shoot during daylight hours. So they start
Correct.
whenever daylight is at 6, 7 in the morning, and they go till 7 p.m. at night. And they have to use all possible daylight because they don't have artificial light like we can use now. So in that film, they're shooting 5, 6 different movies at the same time in different scenes, maybe 5, 10, 15 feet away from each other. And it's just an absolute chaos because you have people screaming, elephants going one way, monkeys going another way, like people naked running that way, someone lost a leg over there, and it was so many different things going on, and they only had 12 hours in the day, so they really maximized how much they could shoot in one day, which caused a lot of safety errors because people are falling, people are getting injured, they're getting replaced, they're finding new people, cameras are breaking. It's an interesting way to portray what it was like to film movies back in the day for people who didn't understand.
But clearly, the director loves movies. He loves Hollywood in so many ways. In fact, he's made 10 films now. I don't know if you're aware of that. And La La Land, of course, was the most recent big success. He got 6 Oscars for that film.
I haven't seen La La Land yet. I'm gonna watch it soon.
You hate musicals. You're not. I suggested that you look at it and just turn the sound off.
You know what?
We'll see style.
I think I'm gonna watch it with the sound and see how long I can go before I mute it. Because I know that the movie's super cinematography oriented.
In fact, it got an Oscar, I think, but why is it you hate musicals? We've never talked about this. What do you hate against musicals? You come from a Spanish background, that music is part of your life.
It just felt too damn corny usually.
Okay.
I don't mind singing, like for singing's sake, like when we're listening to music or having songs, but a lot of the times the music is either really bad or it feels very forced. Mind you, I like musicals from 1930, Fun and Fancy Free, older Disney movies that had a certain level of orchestral musicals to them, but when you started adding things like West Side Story and singing, it got real corny and real boring unless it's really well made, like Singing in the Rain. But a lot of the movies that come out with musicals seem like they're rushed, they're not well done, and maybe that I'm just not a fan of that specific music style. And that's my exception, Singing in the Rain and Fun and Fancy Free.
This particular film, which of course could use an editor since it is so redundant and awfully long, you could snip out so many of these scenes, and his love and mimicking Singing in the Rain, which he does. You can see he loves it, but he can't get over it.
See, I don't necessarily think that the movie needs an editor up until the last 30 minutes of the movie. Because the movie is long, and I understand why it's long, because it needs to portray a lot of things, and sometimes movies need to run long.
I think you're right, the last 30 minutes, that's when he gets over the top.
There were like 5 different endings, but
nobody goes into this history of all the movies blending into each other.
But that's what he was showing. I think that's what was cool, and it would have been cool if he put that directorial tribute to movies and filmmaking in the beginning. If he would have opened with that, like in the first 5 minutes of the film, and then went into the 1920s, it would have made a lot more sense than just throwing it at the end, because at the end when he threw it, there was like 5 minutes of that editing, and it just felt like everything always,
it didn't work.
It just didn't fit. The pacing of the movie just got completely ran off. So if he would have started that pacing off, and then switched to the 1920s, and then continued that pacing and ended on a regular ending, you would have had a better movie.
You know, it's interesting. He must have an obsession with the silent era, because he made a little short film, which he made on his iPhone, by the way, which is brilliant. You got to take a look at it. He made it in 2020. It's about 5 or 10 minutes long, and he does fake a black and white silent film with Buster Keaton and everything. He must have great emotions for the silent. For a silent film. Take a look at it. He shot it on his phone. It was beautiful.
You can tell his cinematography style is inspired by different eras. He's not, like there's a lot of people who make movies are stuck in one way, like Quentin Tarantino has a specific way that's like a specific style that's an era of style. For him, he doesn't seem to have that. He seems to take different manipulations of different things that he likes, and they work well when he sticks to the story plot. They don't work well when you start throwing in just like tidbits, because they just come off weird, but they're well done, which was weird, because it was super out of place, but it was well done. So it was more of a confusion as to why now, as more than why how.
You know, somebody mentioned that, well, those parties couldn't exist. And I said, of course they existed. In fact, I can think of Studio 54 in my youth. I was younger once. Studio 54 is exactly like that opening shot. You had a balcony where everyone just did all the drugs of the world. On the main floor, at one corner, you have Eliza Minnelli and Andy Warhol and Halston and all these people drinking and going nuts, while the rest of the room be naked people all over the place. That existed even in our world today.
So, out of 1 to 10 scale, what would you rate Babylon?
Oh, because of its length and its needing an editor and so, my God. You know, I don't like your 1 to 10, but if I had to give it stars, I'd give it.
That's 1 to 5. It's the same shit.
How about 2? Don't say shit. It's like saying fuck. Don't say fuck either.
I just did that.
Joking. 2.5 stars.
Out of 5.
Usually it's 4 stars normally in life.
That's even worse. Good lord.
Yeah, because it's got so many problems.
Okay.
It's got so many problems.
If we're going to give it a grade school...
I'm a fan of this director.
If we're going to give it a grade school level, just because I don't even know how to quantify your stars, I'm going to go for like
Well, in America,
C plus, B minus.
Alright, same thing.
I'm taking points off for how long it is. I'm taking points off for that weird manipulation of an ending.
No, there wasn't one. There were 5 endings.
That's exactly the problem. Like, there's no clear-cut ending. You could have ended the movie 45 minutes earlier when she walked out into the darkness. When she said, "I'm done being crazy girl, I'm gonna walk out into the darkness," movie end, wouldn't have been mad. Anyways, thank you for watching Nose to Nose. That is our recommendation of the movie Babylon.